Welcome one, welcome all to ESPN Esports. You're watching us live on Twitch, on Twitter, the ESPN app, and on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Arda Ocal. A very special interview right now. We are just around the corner from Call of Duty League free agency and mere days after winning the World Championship in Season 1 of the Call of Duty League. This man is now somehow, some way, a free agent. After winning with the Dallas Empire, now he finds himself in a search for a brand new team. I'm talking about one of the greatest to ever do it, a now three-time world champion, Clayster. And even in introducing you, Clay, it doesn't even sound real.
Yeah. Thanks first and foremost. Thanks for having me on. And I will agree with you there that it doesn't really feel real to be a free agent again after another world championship.
What was the first? I want to go in chronological order. I really want to unpack everything that's happened here. But even take me into the first time last year when everyone was a free agent. When you look back on that, what was that like?
Very stressful. I think a lot of pros determine rosters in Call of Duty. I mean, the rosters are pretty much all like player formed, not really org formed. So although I won the world championship in Black Ops 4 with the United, once I realized that like none of my teammates were really going to take me with them somewhere or like bring me to a team with them, I very quickly realized that like my stock in other pro players' eyes wasn't as like good as I thought it was. I did everything right to win a world championship, but I only dropped a 1.0 or a 0.98 or something like that at champs. So although you can do everything right and do everything like outside the game right, you can still find yourself in tough situations sometimes.
So you land on the Dallas Empire. You're in an interesting situation with a couple veterans and young players as well. Doesn't go so well at the start of the season, but the team rallies. The team ends up being one of the best teams in the regular season. But then the news comes out, at least between the owners and passing that news along to the players. In Dallas's case, that 4v4 is coming next season. So when did you personally first hear about it, even privately, that 4v4 was coming?
About a month before champs is when we knew for sure it was going 4v4. So I knew for about 4 weeks leading up to the tournament that I was going to be the one that gets dropped. It was not that anybody told me that. I was actually making jokes the whole week leading up to champs, like, oh, well, I guess I, better do good in my last hurrah with you guys and stuff like that. So it was just me being able to read the writing on the wall. I knew that the trio of Hook, Illy, and Shotzi wasn't going to break up in any way, shape, or form, and then it's going to come down to me or Krim, and it's like, do you drop me or do you drop the GOAT? And it's almost an easy decision when it comes down to it that way. So I knew it was going to be me for a month leading up to champs, but I'm mature enough, I'm professional enough. I still worked my ass off every single day and made sure that I gave myself and my team the best chance to win champs, which, fortunately we did.
Did you know that immediately? Like your first thought when you heard this was, oh man, it's going to be me for sure.
Oh yeah, I immediately put out feelers. Like I immediately started hitting up other pros and free agents and really just trying to figure out where I was going to go next. I've been dropped so many times, and realistically, it's something that isn't new to me. It still sucks each and every time, but I know not to let it affect me too much, and I know not to get caught off guard by it. So as soon as I had the feeling, and normally my gut feelings are spot on when it comes to stuff like this, I immediately just started hitting people up. I was in Dashy's DMs, I was in Gunless's DMs, but it was definitely not the best time.
Were people caught off guard by that? It sounds like you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like Dallas was one of the first teams, at least the players. Hastro was very forthcoming with this information. It sounds like, I don't know how it was for other teams, but it sounds like you guys were among the first to know. So were people surprised that you were reaching out?
Yeah, everyone kept telling me I was crazy. They're like, you bring so much to a team, and I actually performed really well at champs and, had some crucial moments that led to our success for the ring. And so everyone's like, oh, no, you're crazy. There's no chance they drop you. But for me, it was like, who else are you going to drop? Like, you don't know our team. Maybe Illy, but he does so much for the team, and Hook and Shotzi love Illy, and I love Illy too. Like, I don't think he did anything deserving. I don't think anybody on that Empire team deserved to be dropped. Like, there was no weak link. There's nobody who gave less effort. So it literally just came down to like, what I said, like the trio plus Krim, like you can't really get rid of anybody there because the trio doesn't want to split up. You don't drop Krim, so it has to be me. So although people were surprised, I just knew it was coming from the start.
Now, I'm not adding fuel to the fire here. I'm just merely reporting the numbers. Easy Mac does a great job of posting numbers online, and you actually had the highest KD of your team overall in COD Champs with a 1.1. You were one of two people, Shotzi being the other one, with a higher than 1 KD throughout the postseason. So I'm just putting that out there for people to add context to as they're listening through here.
And I guess for KD, although there is value in KD. I think what I brought to the team and what I did for us at Champs was more than KD. I did a lot of shot calling. I did a lot of preparation, a lot of VOD review, really just hard counters for phase that we had practiced and that I'd kind of come up with and kind of thought about. And, it wasn't just me. The whole team did it as well. But I contributed a lot in that department, and a lot on getting us ready and prepared and in the zone for our match. So that's really where I think I add the most value is truly just like all the intangibles, all the extra things, all the stuff that really adds up to a championship.
I talked to Rambo Ray a week ago, and he said that he tried to avoid this conversation. He knew it was coming, but the task was at hand. He wanted to focus on champs, so he went so far as to say anytime a player brought it up, he just tried to shut down the conversation and say, look, we can talk about this later. Let's just focus on champs. Like, how often did you talk about this up until leading up to championship weekend with players, with Hastro, with anybody?
Well, like I said, I knew it was going to be me, but I didn't want to just like ruin the team vibe. Like we'd all talked about it anyways. Me and Krim were like, let's play for the spot. But realistically, no matter how good I did and how bad he did, it was still going to be me drops. So like, he tried to make it the best he could. I cracked jokes on it like at least every other day, maybe every day. Like it was like lighthearted. It wasn't something where it was going to like ruin the vibe of the team or make it seem like I was giving up or any of that stuff. It was more like lighthearted joking. Like somebody would have a bad map and I'd be like, all right, one strike for you getting cut, like, type of thing. So it was really, it was good hearted. It was kind hearted and it was fun, but it was definitely brought up like every day or every other day.
When you look back on it, did it motivate you more? Compare your motivation knowing this information going into champs versus had you not known going into champs. Did it light a fire under you? How did you, when you look back on it, hindsight being 2020, how did you process it?
I would say it was a lot of added pressure. I don't know if it necessarily motivated me. What motivated me was to go back to back and was to win a third world title and to eclipse the $1 million mark. Like those were the motivating factors for me. But it added so much pressure, and I probably actually would have played better if it wasn't for the pressure. I was definitely feeling it, and I thought maybe like less than 1% chance that it was somebody else dropped than me. I was like 99.5% positive. But if there's a sliver, if I like played insane and, had some crazy moments, which I did play insane. I did have some crazy moments, so it didn't matter anyways. But, I thought like there was a sliver of hope that it might not be me. And so I would say it was just like a lot of added pressure. It wasn't really motivation though. It was mainly just like, if I do bad, I'm 100% getting dropped. Whereas if I do amazing, maybe there's like a percent point that it isn't me,
So we'll get back to how this all happened after champs, but I do want to focus a little bit on champs itself and how Dallas did win. The Dallas Atlanta storyline to me is fascinating because they had your number all season, but not when it mattered the most. They had the season record, but they didn't have those matches where a tournament was on the line, where an elimination was on the line, in the postseason in particular. Like, what was it about this matchup between Dallas and Atlanta that Dallas was just able to beat Atlanta when it mattered the most?
Yeah, so I've always said, like, I would rather you have, like, a really bad losing record versus a team when you play them at champs rather than a winning record. Winning records give you way too much false confidence and make you a little cocky. Then when you start getting down versus those teams, you're like, we beat them 5 times. Like, these guys can't beat us. Like, why are we losing? So it's, like, frustrating and, all these, like, negative emotions when you start losing to a team you're 1-5 or you're 5-1 against. So I've always said it's better to have a losing record versus teams going into champs as long as you're ready for that specific match. And that's really where we came in clutch, is that We'd been practicing really hard on a bunch of our maps that they really weren't really expecting. Like, for example, Azir Cave, Hardpoint. We were 0-6 on it leading into championships, and I think we won all 3 of them in the Toronto and both phase matches. So we went 3-0 when it mattered. Same thing with like St. Petrograd Domination, Ramaza S&D. We had a lot of pocketed maps that we were really trying to hold on to until we played phase. So they like wouldn't have any film on us. We had film on them, and we just prepared so hard for them. Like I put in more prep time for phase in this tournament than any other team I've ever done. Normally you try and like spread your VOD review and film review over across like 4, 5, 6 different teams. But like genuinely, we put all of it into phase, like a little bit into Toronto, and then just like 20, 25 hours into phase. So like if phase would have lost to Huntsman, or we would have lost to phase and played Huntsman, that match would have been insane, because I actually think Huntsman would have probably played us close, maybe beat us, because we didn't like prepare for them like at all. We just thought like us and FaZe were the 2 best. We're going to be playing FaZe, and like we have to win winners finals. So then FaZe beats Huntsman, and then we play FaZe again. So we were just kind of put all our eggs in one basket, and thankfully it paid off. I don't know if it was the smartest move, but it definitely, looking back, it worked out. So, we made a calculated risk, and it paid off by just, prepping so hard for them. Like if I did like a review stream where I kind of watched the matches on my stream. And there's so many moments where like in Search especially, we're like pre-aiming something, and like a FaZe dude just like runs out into our pre-aim. And it's just like so much VOD review goes into that. And it's like, yeah, it's only 1 kill in the grand scheme of things, but that 1 kill leads to a round win, and that round win leads to 2, and then you're already a third of the way to a win. So it really all adds up, and all the little things add up. And I really think, our preparedness and our execution is really what carried us in that phase match.
Yeah, there were some really cool moments. Like even with Ray, we were talking about how you guys pre-rotated, was it P5, I think, on Hardpoint, where you just said, you know what, give them P4. We have enough points. They're not going to take both of them. You were ready there, and you won that round. And actually, in that final, I think every favorite going into a map lost. So you guys beat them on every map where they would have been favored statistically, and they beat you the one map where you were favored statistically.
Yeah, we had to give them one to make it interesting. We couldn't sweep them, we couldn't sweep them.
Which team would you say, when you look back, even the entire season, and I know there's been many changes in the game throughout the season, et cetera, but like which team would you say gave Dallas the most trouble this season consistently?
By far FaZe. I mean,
Yes,
by far FaZe, yeah. I think Florida was a close second, with them being, they beat us in 3 maps, through 3 tournaments that they won, or they had our number there for about a month and a half. Florida did. But we eventually figured them out and started beating them. And so I wouldn't say they gave us trouble all season. There was a month or 2 where Florida was really a thorn in our side, but we eventually got over them. Obviously, Huntsman played us really tight, but we actually didn't play them much towards the end of the year. I think the last time we played them, we beat them 3-0 on the way to our first online tournament win. So I think we were like 1-3 against them, but we actually didn't play them the last like half of the year. So I really don't know how we would have matched up versus each other. So realistically, I think it has to be FaZe, like by far, losing against them 5 times, only beating them once. And then thankfully we won the 2 at champs. So, we still had a losing record versus them, even though we went 2-0 at champs. So, they constantly had our number. They're a good team.
Well, you won the one that matters the most, obviously. You win the World Championship. It's in a strange scenario, obviously, being played online. Still broke records, though. I got an email from CDL saying this was the most watched CDL broadcast ever. But take me into those moments of celebration, man. Like you guys win the World Championship, but you're at either the team house or at home or whatever. Like, what was that moment like, winning a World Championship in those conditions?
Very strange. I've won 2 on LAN in big moments and had the confetti and the crowd and the big checks and all that stuff. So winning, sitting here in my chair was a little strange. Like right here is where I won. So, I was yelling with my team a little bit. My girlfriend ran into the room because she was like watching upstairs. She ran into the room. She heard me screaming, and like it's on a delay. So she like wasn't sure I'd won, but heard me screaming and was like, that's a winning scream, And so she ran in, I hugged her for a little bit, then got back on the mic, celebrated with them. And then like within 5 or 10 minutes, I just packed up my stuff and went to the Empire offices. Had like Shotzi and Hook and Krim all there. Illy's obviously in Toronto still. But we had like a little party, like a little just celebration in our like little room that we haven't really used all year because it's been working from home, but we have our own little space in the NVHQ, or I say we, but I did have our own little space, and so there were some bottles popped, obviously the underage kids couldn't drink, but the ones who were above age, we had a couple drinks of champagne and did some interviews and just had a good time enjoying the moment. I had some people, all the Envy guys over at my house that night. Just had like a little get together of like 5-10 people. And, it was the last good moment I think I felt this past week.
And we will definitely get to that. But that night, like we did hear it was on delay. Ray said he wouldn't tell us how long it was on delay, but he did say you guys were able to watch like the last couple rounds when you got to the team house. How long was it? Like an hour or 2 hours?
Yeah, it was around like 55, 56 minutes. Okay. They switched it up every match, but that specific match was on like basically an hour delay.
Okay. So that to me is like a surreal part of this story where we are now. The after party is at your place. Like thinking about that now, like imagine the conversations that would have been happening in your house, right? Like undoubtedly, even as you're celebrating, people have to be thinking about this. You know about it. You talked about sort of the elephant in the room, even as you're partying in your own place. So like, what was that party like?
It was just good vibes, man. Like I knew it was coming. I allowed myself not to think about it. There's still a bunch of alcohol in my fridge that serves as a sad reminder to the people I used to work with. I got to drink that real quick. Yeah, literally. So it was, looking back, it's kind of sad, right? Like it's definitely sad in the context of that it was, but in the moment it was anything but sad. We were happy. We were excited to win a world championship. Hastro, his wife and his child came over for a little bit. Krim and his fiance were here, and Kyler and his brother were here. And, it was like looking back, it's kind of sad, but and like heartbreaking in a way. But at the time it was anything but, we were just happy to be together, happy to win a world championship together. I genuinely harbor no like bad feelings towards any of them. Sure. So, it's, they're still my friends. I'm still glad like I would have another party tonight if they'd come over. So, it's just one of those things, man. It had to happen, and it sucks it was me, but it is what it is.
Did you have a moment with the Tiny Terrors? I know you won a world championship with them last year. Did they reach out and say congrats?
Yeah. Simp reached out personally right after the match, and we had some good back and forth. And BZ and I talked a couple days later, but they both definitely said congrats. Same with, Alec and Preston and Burns and all the guys over at United. So, realistically, it's a blessing for me to be on such good terms with the two teams I won world championships with. I mean, those guys are all my brothers, and that's something you don't really see often when a player gets cut or dropped or left out or whatever it is. I'm just thankful enough to build the friendships that I built and have the relationships that I built with those people. And it feels weird to not be resentful after something like this. Like I've had this happen so many times, and I just want somewhere to direct my hate and anger and like resentment towards, but like there's really nothing or nobody to be mad at, and I have nothing but love for these guys. So it's definitely a weird like juxtaposition for me to not feel resentful, to not feel hateful, to not be like mad at somebody. So definitely figuring out how to deal with that myself, and just trying to turn it into maybe I wasn't good enough, maybe I didn't do enough, and maybe hopefully it improves me as a player and as a person in the future.
I don't want to turn this into a massive philosophical conversation, but that is interesting, right? Because like you really don't, like, where do you direct your anger to? How do you internalize that? Like, how do you deal with that?
A lot of self, criticism. Like maybe if I had done more, or maybe if I had been a better teammate, maybe if I had performed better all year, maybe if I had given more effort or something like that, I kind of turn it into that way. If you ask all my Empire teammates, like, no, dude, like you did everything right. Like you're the best teammate I've ever had. I appreciate you, like what you did for this team, how you taught me, how you led us. Like they have nothing but good things to say about me. So maybe I shouldn't be so critical of myself. And then like kind of the other thing is maybe the league. Just a little mad at the league for moving it to franchising and then signing us to 5v5 contracts and then putting it to 4v4 the next year. It's a little they didn't have as much foresight as I wish they would have. Maybe they should have just made it 4v4 last year when everybody was a free agent and all these teams were being built. It would have been a lot smoother of a transition. Maybe if they would have expanded 4 teams this year and not had 12 players just basically be out of a job, it would have been a little easier to transition. there's a couple things the league could have done, I think, that would have made this whole process easier, and I think they kind of flubbed it on all fronts. So that's kind of what it is, just critical of myself, critical of the league, and just keep it moving.
Well, we'll talk about the league for sure in a little bit, but got to mention your dogs in the background. Perfect positioning, by the way. You can see like right there. It's like, hello, everybody. What's your dog's name?
Olive.
Olive. Hello, Olive.
Yeah.
Olive is
She's watching my girlfriend bring the groceries in.
Very nice. Hey, we're getting a lot of good questions in chat. This one fits in right now as we're talking about the World Championships. Where does this World Championship even compare to the other two for you?
It was definitely up there. I don't know if it was my favorite of all time, just because it being online and it wasn't as yeah, I don't know. Didn't feel as real. So I think for me, it was like probably third, like I'd say the E United one I won was number 1, the denial one, number 2, and then this one, number 3.
Okay. So now we get to a day later. You know about the news personally. Somehow this is a very well-kept secret, which I'm surprised in the COD community. Usually things like this would leak, but we didn't really hear this publicly. And then all of a sudden, Call of Duty League officially says the league will go to 4v4. I think it was less than 24 hours after the championship was won. So when you saw the public news, were you blindsided by that? Were your teammates blindsided? Like, were you aware that the news was coming?
I felt slightly disrespected. The fact that they, this week, the week after the champions win, should be about the champions. And I get trying to capitalize off the hype. I also get the contracts that organizations have with players. There's a lot of deadlines that needed to be met. I think like the chance to exercise the option for the next year the deadline was last night. And then there's a couple other deadlines like free agencies on the 14th. So there's a lot of deadlines that are coming up that they needed to move quick on, right? But even still, like it's now a week later, basically one full week later. And I feel like, they could have announced it 2 days ago, right before the like extension deadline. And, they capitalized off the hype, but I felt slightly disrespectful because immediately the talk went from like, hey, Empire won this. They're one of the best. They're a well-oiled machine. They're all 5 pieces contributed, to now like within 24 hours, it was just everybody talking about 4v4 and who's getting dropped and who is this and who's that. And then me figuring this out, so although I knew it was coming, I still think they could have given us some time after the finals to really announce that. But they just wanted to capitalize on the hype and really just keep it moving to the next year. So, it is what it is. I just felt slightly disrespected. I mean, very rarely do you see a team win a world title and then the governing body come out and be like, okay, well, here's this major change. And it just kind of takes away the prestige and the hype from winning a world championship. I mean, we've been working all year for this. So a little more of appreciation and recognition would have been nice.
I mean, you even had to field there were a lot of questions, understandably so, from the media in your championship press conference. Yeah. Like, it wasn't just about, hey, you guys did an awesome job and won. Now it's about, well, one of you has to go, apparently, because the league is losing 20% of its starters. And actually, in that press conference, I found it very interesting that you were the one that said, hey, look, if I would almost hope that it's me because this team is so good. Like, I'm paraphrasing your quote there, but it was something similar to that in that press conference. So at that point, had you had the conversation, or were you still under the assumption that it was going to be you?
We hadn't had that conversation yet. I was still under the assumption, it like they all kept telling me it wasn't going to be me, but I just knew it was going to be me. Like I said, I can read the writing on the wall. So, I was just stepping up to the plate with the questions like that, just because I knew the other guys would feel uncomfortable answering them, and it's okay. Like I'm okay with it now. Like, it was a rough 2 days after it happened, but I've got some things in the work that I think people should be pretty excited about.
All right. That's a good tease for what we'll ask later. When you found out, it looks like you found out on stream, because like you look down at something, you react, and then you just push it aside. Is that the moment that you found out on stream?
Yeah.
It was, okay.
It wasn't that. Well, it wasn't I found out. It was Hastro saying, hey, give me a call after your stream. And that text every time means you're dropped, like every time. And so, Yeah, that clip actually hurts me to watch a little bit. I didn't realize the drastic shift in my face and my mood and stuff, and then kind of like I turned it around and just like went back into like having fun with the stream. So watching that is kind of heartbreaking a little bit. You can like see my heart actually breaking. But it's just one of those things. Like I don't really know how to describe it. It doesn't feel good. Like I've genuinely put my all into the team this year. I've grown so much as a person and as a teammate and as a leader the past few years, especially during the time I didn't win. And I've kind of come to a good point in my life where I know how to contribute in a positive manner, and I know how to really be effective in the ways that I teach and the way I criticize my teammates, and I know how to have fun, and I know how to be a mentor to some of these kids when it comes to out of game stuff, just dealing with rent and bills and insurance. And, I bought the whole team replica trophies from when we won LA. Like the org wouldn't buy us all a replica trophy. And so I paid like $3,500 out of my pocket to like buy us all replicas, So I was really about this team. I loved the teammates. I loved all the guys on it. I love teaming with Crim Six again. The young guys all stepped up to the plate more than I could ask. I really, really loved being on the team. So to have that kind of taken away from me and to kind of have like the future with these guys taken away from me, it definitely didn't feel good. And it was something where it's like, dang, I like literally tried as hard as I possibly could this year with every facet. And I still am getting the short end of the stick. Like it felt a little pointless at times. It felt like, why am I giving this effort? There was definitely some tough times that 2 days after I got dropped, just because it's like when you pour everything into something and you achieve the goal that you're trying to achieve and then you still get cut, like it's really tough to deal with.
How long did that call with Hastro last?
3 minutes, because I try and get off the phone like so quick, dude. Like I'm very sensitive, and I'm sure most people know this about me. I'm very, very sensitive. And I just like hate showing that sensitivity in front of other people, especially like my quote unquote boss or whatever it is. So as soon as he's like, we're going in a different direction, I was like, all right, man, I understand. Goodbye. And like he kept explaining, and I was like, all right, dude, bye. Like, all right, dude, bye. Like I'm like starting to freak out. He's like, I hope you still like come into the office and celebrate with us and like do all this stuff with us. And I'm like, man, like you're piling it on. Like let me just hang up the phone. Like I just need to be alone right now. Like geez. So yeah, it was, he kept trying to explain. And I will say Hastro has been pretty good in this whole process. I think that, I did have some issues with him selling me for a buyout, but I understand his point of view. I understand the business side of things. And in the end, I think he's going to send me where I want to go, regardless of the price. So, shout out to Hastro for being at least a relatively chill guy and a relatively chill owner when it comes to, making sure I go somewhere that I want to go.
Well, certainly people would say in counter to that, well, if you were a free person without any restriction at all, you'd be able to go definitely wherever you wanted because it would be your decision ultimately. Like, how confident are you that given this restricted free agent arrangement, you will end up where you want to go?
Well, I'm expensive. My salary for next year is got probably in the top 5, top 8. I definitely think probably top 5, the COD League. And then my buyout on top of that means we're looking at over, $500,000, $750K, just for 1 year of me. And so I'm so expensive in comparison. And obviously I think my track record kind of speaks for itself in that regard. Like if you want me to build a championship winning team, give me the pieces and I'll come do it, So I genuinely think, maybe I'm worth that much, maybe I'm not, but there was a couple options I wanted to go to that couldn't afford me. And it wasn't just the buyout they couldn't afford. It was also the salary. So, maybe the numbers could have got pushed around to just afford my salary, and I could have went to a destination that I really wanted to go to. But there's a couple that I gave him where I kind of gave him some options, and I'm like, send me to one of these 3 places. And there's still a couple on the table. So, I think I'm ending up where I want to be in the grand scheme of things. Maybe not the number 1 choice, but in hindsight, I'm pretty confident about where I'm going to end up and pretty confident with the team I'm going to have, which has been my main thing in this whole thing. It's like, I just want a really good team that can compete for a title again next year. And that's been my main focus. It's just like get on the best possible team I can get on. And I think I may have achieved that. hopefully y'all will see here in a couple days.
So do you have something in the works or something that is finalized? Like, what can you tell us?
A couple things in the works. Nothing finalized yet, but definitely getting there with a couple teams. Trying to just figure out all the pieces, trying to figure out all the moving parts, trying to figure out what living situations look like and stuff like that. So there's a lot that goes into deciding on what franchise I want to sign with, but I think we're getting to a point where you guys should hear an announcement in the next at least 2 weeks.
So this is like what I'm understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that teams are very interested in your services, and you're simply making a decision on what would be the best arrangement for you. So pretty certain that Clayster fans can rest assured that he will be on a team next season.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I can't guarantee you is that I will 100% be playing next year, unless something drastically out of left field happens and like a bunch of teams turn me down. So we'll see, but I should be on a team next year.
I think that's no surprise because you are one of the top 5 players of all time, 3-time world champion. No big deal. I understand that completely. So, but let me ask you this. I understand if you can't answer this, but can you tell us any names? Can you tell us any teams that you've been talking with?
I mean, usual suspects. I think you guys can all, I've reached out to all of the top 8 teams in the league, and then there's it was kind of like deciding what to do. I decided that at the beginning of this year as well, because you have to make a choice between going somewhere that's kind of rebuilding their whole roster and starting from scratch and getting paid almost double. Like, I could have taken $600,000, $700,000 a year. But I built a team of amateurs on these teams, but like, that's not what I'm really looking to do right now. I'm looking to win world titles. I'm looking to repeat right now. I'm looking to continue my legacy of being, a world champion. So, that cuts off a couple of the teams at the bottom that are really doing full roster rebuilds. And it really just comes to where I can fit in with the best players. And, you look at, Chicago, you look at Atlanta, you look at OGLA, you look at some of these teams that have established rapport with their players, and these players are really good, and you really just try and fit in there and see if they want you, see if they can afford you, see if it's a good fit for you culture wise, and just move from there. So the process is tough. It's definitely very strenuous, and it's something that I cannot wait to be done with.
Yeah, I can imagine. The big rumors online, at least according to CDL Intel, is New York. I'm sure you've seen that.
I would love to team back with Tommy again. I think they got a lot of good things going on over there in New York. Them not being an endemic Call of Duty brand is interesting to me because, they don't have roots in Call of Duty. They don't have roots inside the CDL. So I would love, to get an opportunity on a team like NYSL to really, spread roots out, grow from there, grow this brand, grow it into something that's like for life. Like that was what and like Stroh kind of told me here on Empire, he's like, dude, if this didn't happen, like we're signing you guys to like 5-year contracts. And like, when you're done competing, you're working inside of our org. And like, that's all I want, dude. Like, I just want I think people don't give me enough credit for how loyal I've been to organizations and to owners and to teammates and stuff. Like, I'm probably one of the most loyal people inside of Call of Duty when it comes to stuff like that. And like, that's all I want. Like, I just want a home to where like all the effort I put into building the brand and all the like, really just time and work and effort that I put into winning championships and not only winning championships, but doing it with style and doing it where people are talking about us and people are enjoying our brand and like what the kind of content we're putting out and like the camaraderie between the teammates, like the culture behind the team. Like, I just want somewhere that'll keep me forever. Like, I don't want to keep moving around. Like, I just want to go somewhere that'll keep me for 5 years. And then when I'm done competing, I can work inside the org as like a coach or a GM or whatever it may be. And really just stay there. And that's like what I've been looking for my entire career. And I thought I had it on eUnited. It went to franchising. I thought I had it on Empire. It went to 4v4. So, it's just another battle that I'm going to have to get through. But I hope whatever org is out there listening to this, like, I will play for you forever. Just show me some love. That's all I ask.
It seems as though your loyalty is there, but extraneous circumstances that like are well beyond your control are reasons why you end up no longer on these teams. Like 2 back-to-back years after winning world championships, giant seismic shifts in the league force you to have to find another team.
Yeah.
Franchising, 4v4, like unbelievable.
I don't think every time I've been dropped in my career has been outside my control. I think like I tried to do something special on complexity, try to stay there forever. Something happened. I tried to do something special on optic. Something happened. I tried to do something special on phase. Something happened. So like I think those moments, like there's stuff I could have done that was in my control to keep my spot, but I was either too young in my career, too egotistical, whatever it may be, like rub people the wrong way, yada yada. But these last 2 years have just been like me getting screwed. Like, like it sucks to win a world championship and then be a free agent and then go back to back at world championships and be a free agent again. Like, I just don't understand like what else I can do. And it genuinely has chipped away at my love for competitive Call of Duty a little bit. Like, to give everything I've got for 2 years in a row and like and accomplish the world title, like do what you wanted to accomplish and still be a free agent. It's like, it's definitely made me feel slightly apathetic to the issue. It's definitely made me have to reprioritize how I see things. And I still want to keep competing. I still want to win world titles, but maybe it's time to start game planning an exit strategy or something, because I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this.
So that leads me to a logical question here, and I'm not insinuating anything when I ask this, but it is a fair question to ask. Throughout any of this process, have you thought about retiring? Have you thought about what else might be there? Maybe you would be a very successful streamer. Nobody would doubt that, for example. Has that crossed your mind in the immediate future, or do you still have the desire to compete?
I would be lying if I said it never crossed my mind. I mean, to go out as a back-to-back world champion and like just retire would be pretty baller. Like, that'd be pretty cool to like just go out on top and be like the best in the world and be like, all right, I'm done. Like, you guys suck. Like, I'm out. That'd be pretty cool. But the competitiveness in me and the drive to be the best in the world is still as bright and as strong as ever. I've said this a couple times, and I think I probably will hold true to this. Until I start getting smoked, I probably won't quit. Like, obviously, I have what it takes. If you look at this champs from this year, obviously, I can still perform very well. I can hang with the 18, 19-year-old kids. I can bring a lot to a team. I'm a valuable asset, and until I don't want to just be an asset, though. Like, I don't want to just be a social media following or leadership. Like, I want to contribute like talent-wise in game. I want to be able to control the game and win the game by how good I am. And so until I start really seeing a downtick in my like individual performance, I'll probably stick around and try and be the best in the world, because I'm so competitive, and the competitiveness of competitive Call of Duty drives me every single day. And to be able to compete, like to be the best in the world at something like millions and millions of people play, is something I'm forever blessed to do. And it's something that I'm not like, like overestimate. I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Like, I'm not taking it for granted, basically. I'm really just focused on understanding that this isn't a forever thing, but it's something I'm going to try and make last as long as possible. And so realistically, until I physically can't hang anymore, you'll probably see me playing competitive Call of Duty.
Okay, fair enough. What about the roster itself? So if in your ideal scenario, you've talked a lot about like the type of org you'd like to join and the type of pedigree, where they were in the standings, et cetera. But what about your teammates themselves? If you had your way, what would your roster look like next season?
Probably just me, Hook, Illy, and Shotzi. But
okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, given the circumstances that you're in right now.
There's so many good players in the league now, and especially a lot of players that I've teamed with that I know understand my way of thinking about competitive Call of Duty. And so honestly, just teaming with anybody who is either, a vet that has an open mind, or a young kid with a lot of talent that needs a little bit of molding and a little bit of push in the right direction. You can build teams multiple different ways in Call of Duty. And really, for me, I think like this formula I've had the last 2 years has really been successful in kind of pairing together like two strong vocal leaders with two younger rookie-esque players, with then like a middle, like in between, in between a vet and a rookie type person. And really that's had a good yin and yang, had a good chemistry balance between everybody. And I'd probably be looking to do something like that for next year. A rookie or two, or a younger, like I say rookie, but I mean like just a younger player or two, and definitely like a vet who thinks alike and who thinks like I do. And there's so many good players in the league now. I think I could see success with a lot of different people in the league on a lot of different teams. It really just comes down to vibes, and a lot of people underestimate how important vibes and chemistry are to a team. But in Call of Duty, it's like everything. Like if you can get on every day and enjoy playing and practicing with your teammates and having a good time, like actually laughing and getting along outside the game, like it goes so much further than anybody thinks. It's like, yeah, there's examples like, for example, me on Complexity, we kind of hated each other and we'd yell at each other all the time and it was not fun practicing, but we were really good when it came tournament time. I've kind of gone away from that, and I think it's like super vital to all get along and to all get along outside the game, not only in game. So really vibes and talent are what I'm looking for right now. And if I can put together some vibes and some talent, I think I can do something special.
Would it be more important for you to team with players that you've already teamed with in the past or players that you haven't teamed with before, or does that not matter?
I don't think it really matters. I would obviously like to reunite with some of my ex-teammates, but I also think that there's a lot of untapped potential with some of these younger guys. So, it's just making sure you weigh that cost-benefit analysis. It's not 5v5 anymore. It's 4v4. So having like 2 fresh rookies on your team isn't probably going to work in any more in 4v4. But, having at least one guy who's got just a bunch of talent, just not a lot of championships behind him, I think that'll probably be pretty vital to the success of the team.
So tying a bow on where Clay ends up next, how soon can people expect an announcement? Do you have a time frame?
Hopefully very, very, very soon. I got some things in my email inbox that I just sat down to. So, we're having some people look over some things and getting some legalese ironed out. But I say hopefully if we're fast tracking this, a week. If it takes a normal time, 2 weeks. If it's slow, probably 3 weeks. Okay. So within the next 3 weeks at least.
Now, don't mind us. I mean, you can feel free to screen share and read the emails if you want. Totally cool. Feel free. Like, we're totally fine with it. We can just sit back and be like, oh, well, that's interesting. Huh, New York, Chicago. Huh, interesting. I'm just kidding.
Shoot,
obviously.
I thought you were showing my screen. No,
it'd be hilarious. Can you imagine? Wow, look at this. And then Chad is like helping you negotiate. No, you deserve more, Krim. Ask for 100K more or whatever. Let's get to some chat questions. We got some really interesting questions. A lot of them were about the season itself. When you look back on this season, the inaugural season of CDL, how would you grade it? How would you adjudicate it? What were some pros? What were some cons?
Okay, so I'll say personally, I thought the season was a success. Obviously not perfect. I mean, we left a lot on the table. I think we lost 5 tournaments and only won 3, and then 1 champs. So, I think like for us personally, it was, probably like A-, around B+ around there. We left a lot on the table, but we ended up winning. But in terms of the CDL as a whole, I mean, obviously the shift to online because of COVID was drastic, and there's a lot of learning and moving parts. The first few events were not only terrible from a broadcast perspective, but from a playing perspective. And I will say there was improvements each and every single week, but there was still some broadcast technical issues that reared its head throughout, the first 5 online tournaments. And those kind of issues really killed a lot of the hype around Call of Duty League. Like it was impossible for me to watch when the casters were a second behind or a second ahead. There's just constant issues. But I will say they seem to have ironed out most of those before champs. So champs actually ended up running relatively smooth other than the DDoSing issues, which they then solved by having a delay. It was just a big learning process for everybody, man. I mean, we used to do online leagues back in the day, and it seemed like the group and the team doing the CDL now wasn't very familiar with the issues that we ran into with the online leagues in the past. And so they weren't ready to have these delays. They weren't ready to have replay rules in place. They weren't ready for all this stuff. So, the whole season was a bit of a flurry. The LAN events, I will say, were really awesome. Minnesota, London, and LA, the ones that we went to, were a great time. I actually had a lot of fun there. I think there are still some facets like the hype battles that they didn't necessarily need to do. I think the prize pools for these events should probably be upped a little. I think they should include all the teams. I think there's some format stuff that they could have changed, but they changed the format originally from only playing 1 league match tournament versus a home team to then you're actually playing like a mini tournament. So like, they did try and shift into what the community and what the pro players wanted. And hopefully this is just a learning experience. Hopefully this first year is really just getting all the kinks out, working everything out, and really just focusing hard on next year, because it looks like it's probably going to be online next year again, with COVID still being record high in the States. So hopefully, these issues that were running rampant throughout this year are definitely going to be solved for next year, and hopefully it's a little smoother. Online COD is never fun. I will say that. Fortunate enough to be in Texas with fiber, but online COD is not fun. And there are multiple times where we got screwed over by being in Texas. For example, when we played Toronto, there were 5 people in Toronto, and we played on a Chicago host, and we're 4 people in Texas. And so if you just think about that geographically, like they're on 15 ping and we're on like 80. So like it's just simply really unfair in Call of Duty. They need way more servers. They need a lot. So hopefully this is just a learning experience for them, and they can improve the broadcast and the server selections for next year.
So Clay, that brings me to this question from chat about next season and how it could go down. Like, what are the options for next season? Let's say we're in the same situation. Is there any possibility at all that there could be a LAN option, or do you think it will just be online again?
I hope so. I hope there's at least at least 1 or 2 LANs, maybe like a mid-season event, and then like champs is on LAN. Like, I think that, there are ways to do stuff like this safely. I think if it's anything shown by, the NBA bubble or how the NFL is conducting practices right now, like even with no spectators, I think there's a way to do LAN. I think there's a way to self-quarantine everybody. I think there's a way to do testing for everybody. It's not like we have a huge league anymore. I think there's like 48 players in the league now. So like, 48 players plus 12 coaches, you're looking at 60 people, like maybe 72 with subs, maybe 80 with GMs or 84. So it's realistically under 100 people, probably around 100 people with staff and all that stuff included. And I think that's doable. I think it's doable to get testing done. I think it's doable to have us in our own little area. I think it's the hardest part would be traveling. But I think if there's enough notice for everybody and you put it kind of in the middle of the United States, give everybody the same opportunity to drive, I think there's opportunity for it. And I think the pros would love to see it. I think the fans would love to see it. And you could do some really special stuff without a crowd at events, make it really intimate, make it really like this team versus this team right up against each other, make it focused on the trash talk, make it focused on like the hype from just the teams, So I think there's definitely some opportunity there for COD to go a route like that. I hope there's at least 1 LAN next year.
Yeah, that would be, hopefully we're not in this situation, so this is just a moot point, and it does happen anyway. So here's hoping anyway. Speaking of which, though, really part of the reason why we are in this situation, and in particular, I mean, we reported on it, how the league will not expand beyond 12 teams this year, and in large part, that is due to the pandemic and the economic factors that went into everything surrounding the pandemic and how it affected organizations, et cetera, Clay. So what I do want to ask you is more generally, it doesn't seem like it's going to necessarily affect you because you're already talking with teams and it looks like a deal is on the way. But now the pool has shrunk, 20% of starting positions are gone, right? You said 48 positions are available. And we're already seeing movement. We're already seeing these conversations happen. Teams are already announcing players being parting ways, et cetera. What do you think the pandemic and the economic situation is going to do just overall in terms of free agencies? What do you think this is going to mean for salaries for certain players in the CDL? How do you think this is going to shake down? Yeah,
so I think that already we've kind of seen the effects of it. I mean, some of the owners of some of these teams are like sports owners and stadium owners, and stadiums aren't getting a lot of income right now. So like a lot of these franchise teams, their capital and their budget is a lot lower than it would have been if it wasn't for COVID. So even I won't name names or anything like that, but I've had a gigantic franchise who I talked to who's like, we only have $200K in the budget. Like we can't even afford your salary, much less your buyout. And so I think you're going to see a lot of people taking pay cuts this year. I think not only are you going to see people taking pay cuts, I think you're going to see a lot of starters that you saw in the league this year not even be on a team next year. The challenger scene is going to be insane. There's going to be like at least 8 pro teams in the challenger scene. It's going to be literally like a mini pro league. And it's tough. I mean, our goal as players is to bring our franchises some revenue and to bring us some notoriety and some brand value and win championships and get them some kickback from the org cut. And really that's just got to be where our mindset is as players. You know, like it sucks that some people can't afford who they want or what direction they want to go in a roster, but you know, some teams can. You know, I've had some teams tell me they have infinite capital. I've had some teams tell me, like, you know, this COVID hasn't affected their finances at all. And so realistically, it just depends on like where that money is all centered at, where it's all coming from, and really how much they budgeted. So I think with cutting a player off, and, you know, every team is not like, I think Empire is probably the only one who just like sliced one off and kept the other four. Every other team has at least a player or two that they should sell and like hold them restricted free agent or trade them for somebody, or, you know, get some money back from them. And so not only are they saving costs by cutting the salary of that fifth person, they're also making money by selling that fifth person to wherever they end up going. So, you know, hopefully there's enough offset in this process that, you know, everybody in the COD League gets paid what they deserve. But, you know, after the talks that I've had, it doesn't seem that way. And it seems that some teams are going to severely cut costs. And it looks like some of the players that they have are either going to have to take a massive pay cut or end up not on a starting roster next year.
A couple more chat questions. And you've been very generous with your time, Clay. Thank you very much for joining us here. A lot of people are asking about the game themselves, whether it's Modern Warfare this year from Infinity Ward and Black Ops Cold War next year. Let's start with Modern Warfare. When you look back on it, start to finish, as a COD title, as a competitor playing it all year, where will it sit in the pantheon of Call of Duty titles for you?
So I've said this a couple times. Warzone was great, minus the hackers. Gunfight was an awesome mode. Ground War was really well done. But the competitive side of Modern Warfare was severely lacking. And I'm not saying this is a shot at Infinity Ward or Activision or anything, but genuinely, once it moved to online or like COVID work from home stuff, you could tell that their focus just like dropped from having like an inkling of like paying attention to us to like, nah, let's focus everything on Warzone or everything on what other stuff we got to do. And, you know, I don't fault them for that. I mean, Warzone blew COD up again this year. Like, I get it. We're a small percentage of the Call of Duty base. And, you know, I'm not saying it's their fault or whatever, but the competitive side of it was an afterthought, and you could tell. And, you know, I obviously don't want to upset any developers, but this is my personal opinion, and a lot of my personal opinion comes on like how good I was at the game. But I never thought I would ever want to play World War II over any other game, and somehow Modern Warfare has edged World War II to where I would rather play World War II than play Modern Warfare anymore, even though I won a world title on it. Like it's very frustrating to play Modern Warfare. A lot of stuff happens that just is infuriating as a professional COD player. That happens, like spawns and gunfights and cameras and this and that, and playing domination for some reason again. Like there's just so many things that could have been done better that weren't, and it was just very frustrating to play as a pro player. So I would honestly put Modern Warfare at the bottom of my list as a competitive game, but I do think as a real game, like as Ground War and Gunfight and Warzone and everything is considered, it's an amazing COD. Like it's a really good COD. It just like wasn't ideal for competitive.
What do we know about Black Ops Cold War as it pertains to competitive, other than being other than CDL being 4v4?
Well, I'm under NDAs out the ass, so
okay, can't tell.
I don't know what I can say, but I will say one resonating word is just like positive. Like okay. There's plans, there's positivity, there's been conversations already. It's all been good. I don't want to get ahead of myself and say like how I did where like Infinite Warfare is the best S&D I've ever played before. Like I played a lot of it. So like I don't genuinely know how it's going to play, how it's going to work out. But from the conversations that we have had, it's been nothing but positive, and I'm so excited to get into next year.
Rate your optimism about the title. Oh, Olive wants to chime in here. Olive, where is Clay going? Where's Clay signing, Olive? Can you tell us? If you don't mind. Oh, there you go, in perfect position. Yeah. And Olive's going to tell us where Clay is signing next in 3, 2, 1. Sit if it's New York.
Sit.
Well, okay, confirmed. Confirmed. There it is. Confirmation, everybody. Subliners. Let's get that jersey out. Rate your optimism on a scale of 1 to 10.
10.
Wow.
10. Yeah.
Okay.
Treyarch, baby. I can't wait. I love the team over there at Treyarch. I really enjoy what they do for competitive. So I think it's going to knock it out of the park this year.
Can you just give us I know we have a couple minutes left here. Can you just tell us like the communication, even if it's historical, and what you're looking forward to? Because one of the prevalent storylines that we definitely covered at ESPN Esports was that Infinity Ward has maybe a little bit of a lack of care for the esports scene. And Treyarch definitely makes that a priority in terms of communicating with pros, etc. Like, what is that relationship like? How much of a communication is there, and what gets done as a result?
Okay, so I won't say anything that will, get me in trouble here. I will just say some stuff that is put out publicly. If you look at the beginning of this year, there was multiple interviews from Infinity Ward developers saying how competitive Call of Duty ruined COD and how they created safe spaces for lower skilled players to be able to succeed in Modern Warfare, right? So you take that perspective, which, they're welcome to their own opinion, and I can kind of understand where they're coming from. We're very critical. We're very hard on Call of Duty. We want it to be the best balanced game that it can possibly be. I get it. Then you take a look at the Treyarch developers who are tweeting like, wow, watching this grand finals of Call of Duty champs and like so excited to get to work with these guys next year. And it just goes to show you like the juxtaposition of like how they see competitive. Like the Treyarch guys are all hands on deck, like really want to get involved with it, want to make the most balanced competitive game because they believe if you balance a game for competitive, it's balanced for casuals as well. And that's kind of like Treyarch's thought process, where Infinity Ward's is kind of backwards. They want to balance it for casuals, and competitive is just kind of like, if you want to play competitive, you go play competitive, but we're balancing this game for fun, for casuals, for a good time, not for like competitiveness. And so it's just different philosophies that each developer has. And, there's merit to both of them. I mean, Modern Warfare was the most successful COD game, I think, ever. So like, because Warzone, because they catered to casuals, because casuals had a great time playing it. So there's merit in what their perspective is. It's just not good for us as competitive players. And, I think there's a middle ground there we can get to. I think there's some, arm pressure that Activision could maybe apply to Infinity Ward to at least devote a team for competitive. I just think that there's a lot of people over at Treyarch that actually really care about us as players, as people. I have very personal relationships with a lot of those guys over at Treyarch, and I just think that they want nothing more than the game to succeed as an esport. So they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that happens.
Well, it'll be very interesting to see Season 2 of the CDL with Black Ops Cold War, with everything that's going on. Free agency is going to be fun. I'm sure I'm going to be knocking on your door in a few days when an announcement happens. So look forward to that, Clay. Clay joining us live here on ESPN Esports for a great hour of conversation on a variety of topics. If you joined us midway, you can find the VOD very soon. It'll be uploaded to our YouTube channel /ESPN Esports. Clay, thank you very much for your time, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
And thanks to everybody for watching. We'll catch you next time.